My name is May, and I'm a research software engineer here at the Turing. So I'm your average working adult. I pay my taxes. Like J.K. Rowling, and this is the only thing I have in common with J.K. Rowling, okay? Like J.K. Rowling, I'm happy to pay my taxes. I think it's a privilege to be able to pay the taxes. Which is why when I look at topics like this about UK austerity, about pension, about cutting funding in schools, about NHS, I feel confused. Do we have enough money or not? Where is my tax money going? I'm going to pay, half my working life, I'm going to be paying into taxes. No, actually the whole working life, sorry, scratch that. Sorry, this is going live stream, so I'm very nervous. So the government has a legal responsibility to release this information to us, where are all your tax money being used. And they release it in the form of the public expenditure statistical analysis called PASUP, which is on their website. So they release it in the form of everybody's favorite stuff, spreadsheets. There are about 8 spreadsheets, and each of them have about 5 tables. So we have a lot of tables. Okay, so now I have my prejudices. Okay, I have my prejudices, and I'm not comfortable. Confronting my prejudices. So I'm not going to be looking through these spreadsheets to find the information for myself. Okay, so I'll rather be watching Netflix. When I vote, I kind of have the gist of who I'm going to vote for anyway, so I'm not going to be checking the data. So, but the thing is, prejudices are problematic when it comes to shilling for votes, when it comes to forming major policy. Therefore, I need a way, really. I really do need a way of looking at my data. And the internet is full of these visualizations, some coming from better sources, others from less authoritative sources. Now, the thing is, when I look at these visualizations, they look very clear, but again, they're a story that somebody else has formulated for me. I can't form this story myself. It's been framed for me. I look at the picture, and it's been formed for me. I can't say, okay, what happens if I change this? What happens if I want to look at expenditure for another year, for example? Because I want to see changes in time. Only when you look at changes in time can you place things in perspective. So I don't like these visualizations, but there are better visualizations out there, like this one by David McKinley's people. But even they have problems, and there's the tiny print here. It says, I'm saying it's not me, it's the data. And I was very happy when I saw that, because they were complaining about messy data as well. So it was not me, it was not me just struggling. I was struggling with the Excel spreadsheets that the government has released about public expenditure data. So we have these problems. How are we going to go around solving them? So when Thomas came to us about doing this project for visualization of the expenditure data, we were very, very happy. Now, so this is one result of the work we've done with Thomas. We want to put the government expenditure data out there, more accessible by everyone. So the first question you want to know is, okay, government expenditure data, what is it? What does it consist of? Okay, so the first thing we know, okay, we understand the structure of the data. We allow you to structure, look at the general structure of the data. So there are all these sections and subsections and so on. So now we know, okay, what's out there. Okay, then after that, we start to explore the visualization. So we are saying here in 2015 that we spent this amount of money on social protection. This is the section for social protection. When I look at it, I say, oh, well, that's great. That seems reasonable to me. Does it seem odd to anyone else? Now, how do I know how true this data is? Okay, so with Thomas' help, we can open up the source code and look at the data. Look at the code where we are pulling the data from. And I can see, okay, so we're not going to go through a lot of how the language works. But just very quickly, I'm saying, okay, I'm getting the expenditure data for 2015, and I'm getting this, the service called social protection. Okay, I'm sorting the values from low to high, and I'm taking the first 7. And I go, okay, well, why are we taking the first 7? What else is out there? So I can remove this. Okay, doesn't matter. Anyway, so you can see the preview here. Okay, so this is the same chart as you saw before, but now you can see there's something else. There's something else called OH. And now you see, with the access to the data, with the ability to check the data, you can see what kind of data is coming out and what kind of manipulations people give you to get the story they want you to see. Okay, so that's one. So again, this is something else. Now, this is our expenditure on economic affairs. We can say, well, we spend, the green line is agriculture, the orange line is enterprise, and the blue line is science and technology. I'm very happy that we're spending so much on science and technology. So now, let's look at the source code. Okay, now we can see, in terms of economic affairs, we have missed out some other things. So for example, now that things have changed, the blue line is the total, the orange line is now transport. So you can see how much more we spend on transport rather than in comparison with everything else. So again, this is an example of how looking at the source code, being able to access the source code in itself, lets you see what else is available. Okay, so we want to be able to engage people. We want to be able to engage people and get them to confront their prejudices, but it is not a comfortable thing to do. So what do I do to engage you? I play games with you. So shall we give a start? Okay, James, he's my boss over there. How much do we spend on general public services?
What's in there? Let's say it's not health, it's not protection, it's not very much.
It's not very much?
Like, I don't know,
two or three. Okay, fine. Shanuki, would you like to say how much do we spend on economic affairs?
Let's say, I don't know, maybe 2.5 or 2.5.
Oh, come on. We've got to be spending the money somewhere. We're running out of money. Education.
The initial value is the average. So on average, what you see in grey, you should get.
So education is very important. How much do we spend on education? A guess? 8%. 8%, fine.
8% is guess.
Okay, on health. Health is also very important. Imagine all those NHS, deadlines. 11. Okay, sorry, that's health. Social protection. Remember, pensions, benefits, disability. 15. You can't spend everything on social protection. Sure, okay, I'm going to give you 13. Okay, so you go. Show me how you did. There you go. Okay, so this is a way we want to get us to confront our prejudices. Okay, we get you to engage. Okay, now, politicians, they make promises. Prime Minister David Cameron says, I promise you a green environment. How much do you think he committed to the budget in the following years following his announcement? Do you think the trend went up or down? Down. Somewhere around like that. Yeah? Okay, show me how you did. And so, yes, the trend did go down, but it didn't go very down. But you have to remember at this point, if you open up the source code, then you will be able to see where's the data coming from and whether I've manipulated it in any way. Okay? And finally, the final one. George Osborne says, science is important, it's going to create new jobs. How much he says he was going to give 600 million extra to science and technology. How much do you think we committed to science and technology in the years following it? Do you think the trend went up or down? George Osborne, remember. Up or down, come on. Down? Okay. Somewhere there? Or are we more pessimistic? Okay. Look. So again, I'm not shilling for George Osborne. Anyway, and then finally, the final slide, sorry. We are the Data Science Institute. We collect data about you as well. So this is kind of an example of all the guesses that other people made. Okay, so lots of people thought that we were going to spend less on science and technology. Basically, nobody thought that George Osborne was going to keep his promise. So nobody said it. Environment was kind of up and down, and it's kind of a bit harder to see on the social protection. Anyway, sorry. So that's the end of the talk. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you for the talk. It was really interesting. As far as I understood, you essentially expose or you leverage data that is exposed on government websites for this. Have you encountered or do you anticipate any resistance to this?
No. Sorry.
Yeah,
Please
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I do not anticipate resistance from the government. I mean, the data is already out there. I would say, though, the data is not in the easiest format to read. It is certainly not machine readable. So there is a lot of data wrangling challenges. So I cannot just plug an algorithm in and draw these charts. I need the Excel websites. I need to know where the tables are. I need to know what the data means, and so on. So I don't think there will be a resistance, as in like we don't give you the data, but there is, in terms of accessibility, I think it could be done better.
So there's resistance in terms of we give you scanned PDF, have fun.
When you're collecting data on the various responses, are you collecting any other metadata on the people who are responding?
No, we don't collect anything about who they are or the demographic or anything, just their responses at this stage.
That was a fantastic talk, great work. So what I want to know is, leaving aside the challenges of the data itself, to what extent is your work reusable and open source?
So the code for all this is completely open sourced. We have done the same kind of visualization and accessibility to other data sets. So we've done it for the Eurostat, for the World Bank data, and for other data sets such as the Olympics data. We have a site where you can go and upload your own data, upload a big set of CSV files or text files, and then it will expose the data for you in the same way. So you can explore it. So if you put it in, then you can see what the columns are available and then draw the charts out. So it's an easy way, I suppose, if you put your data up there, then you could put a link and then invite your people to go see, look, this is the data set that I put up, not just one chart. This is the data set that I put up, and you can go look at it here, the whole thing.
So the whole thing is on GitHub. If you search for the gamma, you'll find it, and there's reasonable, very varying level of quality tutorials describing how to use it. But if you're interested, or if anyone else is interested, I can show it later on in the day, or you can get back to us later on and we can help you. There was one more question somewhere over there in the unreachable territory.
Thank you. When you're trying to show the kind of the big picture and you're categorizing expenditure, do you just use the categories that are given to you by the organization,
Yes.
or are you doing your own, are you categorizing them yourself? Because I guess the problem with big financial data sets is they have maybe, you have your top 5, which are quite obvious, and then you have maybe 100 more, which kind of disappear into obscurity. So how are you dealing with those obscure ones?
I'm picking the top 5 to be shown here. But yes, we do use whatever is already given on the government raw data, because we feel that if we start to recategorize things, that might kind of defeat the purpose of transparency and so on. So it is available. If you wanted it to look at the more obscure ones, they are still there, but you have to go look for them. You have to know that they are there, which is why at the beginning of the blog we show you at the very first level what is accessible. Because I find that when I look at a new data set, the first question I ask is, what's there? When I go to Eurostat data, European data, I ask what's there. And it's very hard for me to find out exactly what is there so that I can even start to frame my questions at all.
It's just a comment, really. The sources of data are the Office of Budget Responsibility, the ONS, and the Treasury data. They sort of agree in global terms, but then there's the central accounts figures, and the major difference is the difference that all of the other figures are based on cash payments or receipts, and they don't take into account accruals. The civil servants always shake their head and they go, yes, there's a very big difference here. And I'll give you an example of one of the differences. 5 trillion unfunded pension commitments. So maybe there's another stage to this, that you translate your visualizations under conventional accounting conventions.
So I suppose if I was to approach the task that you were mentioning, so I would have to get the ONS data, and then to be able to then match the categories across, and which is quite a big task, I think, unless they already use a similar vocabulary, which I'm not sure about. So when they don't, so that's already that's a big wrangling task. I cannot match two things together. There's too much overlap, and so there is not enough resolution for me to get the categories to match properly. So that's one problem. I suppose then I agree with what you say. The only thing I have is that here with the ONS, with the PACER data, they do release it in terms of GDP. So maybe we can look at the amounts, I suppose, in other than in cash value and in nominal values. We could look at it in adjusted values or in percentage of GDP. So that might be another way of approaching it. So if we were to put the ONS data together and put it next to this one next to it, we will be able to see an interesting comparison of how the reports match. We would have to, though, find a good category. So we would have to force both officers to use a similar vocabulary and then force them to also use the same unit of measurement.
So I think on that note, this would be a really interesting project to do. And if you're interested in helping us, then we can chat later. There's lots of fun challenges that the ADA team will solve for us, and then we'll have an awesome visualization.